All right, we're going to jump on into the SS Rescue. So I've already laid the groundwork for what I call quilting or stacking an image. So I have more surface area to paint. Painting is my favorite part. And just like if you were potting a plant, you would put the rocks on the bottom and then the dirt or maybe sand, and it all like stacks on top of each other. And then you're going to lay it down. And once it's laid down, that gives me this look. So I want to say it's three-dimensional but flat at the same time with lots of surface area. So I'm going to jump into speeding ahead so you can see the rest of the drawing as I lay it out. So now I'm looking at the image and realizing it's absolutely positively not centered on the page, and that is bugging me. So I pull out my circle template and I decided to add weight all around it to try to even it out. So my mistake isn't so much a mistake, but more like intentional. And also I want more places to paint because painting is the best. So you can tell I'm like evening it out, and I'm like, okay, so let's add some more weight on this side because clearly there's more space on the right than on the left. I couldn't find a circle small enough, so I resort here to my washi tape. So there's where that went and why I did that, my thought process behind it. Okay, so everything is ready to go and I'm ready to start laying down my paint. I've made the decision that I want the waves to be blue and green and everything else to be earthy tones on the bottom. So right now I'm getting together colors and I'm just mixing a bunch. I'm not even making a plan here. There's like undersea green is one, and then ultramarine is another, and I use some cobalt teal. But I'm literally just pulling colors that I'm drawn to without a plan. So I'm laying down one of many layers that will be on this painting. I think I'm using undersea green right now. I put a base color down and then I'm glazing on top of it. And one of the tricks I love most that took me a long time to realize was instead of contorting my body to find a way to paint an area, you should turn the paper. So one of my mentors, really good one, who told me about that continuously while watching me paint. Why don't you turn the paper? So make sure you're turning your paper so you can get the best angle on everything. I'm going to speed up for a little bit so you can watch some more painting because it is a tedious process, but totally worth it. So now it's time to start adding shadows underneath the tips of the waves and under the boat to give it more depth of dimension, because it's just many layers are going to go into this, and it's time to start laying them down. I think Payne's Gray and Indigo are used here mixed with some of the greens. But it's going to be the process of laying down the first swipe and then coming back with clean water to diffuse it out so it blends into the background nicer. So I'm just going to carry this through the rest of the painting to add more depth. And I'm really stoked about my hand. It's just there. I'm doing the whole process again to add more. It's just rinse and repeat basically over and over again, trying to get it in there. Clean water, diffuse it up, pull the colors up a little bit. Gives me a natural high when I'm doing it too. I'm like, this looks amazing. At least it does to me. Still using number 2 brush, because this is actually a tiny painting. Yep. Making the choice to keep doing it. It's so funny to sit here and analyze what I'm doing. I'm like, what was I thinking? I think I was thinking I just need to pull these waves away from the back wave as much as possible. And now finally I'm going to start on the bottom of that boat, because it's getting lost. If I squint my eyes, I can't see the difference between it and the waves. So that's the other thing I like to do to see where I need to add shadow, is to squint your eyes, and it will definitely tell you where things are not separating. I'm going to speed up the video a little bit and take you through some more adding of shadows. So I'm looking at this going, it's time to move into the sky. I'm going to add the darker color to the bottom. I'm going to make it bleed into the lighter color I'm going to add in a second. I think I'll go with yellow. So I've wetted it down so it has that bleed effect. And I'd love to tell you this is stuff like I just knew. It's just, I've been doing this for so long. I just know what I need to do. And that sounds so terrible. But the truth is I want the darkness to be on the bottom and lead into the yellow in the sky. So I'm wetting it, pre-wetting it, so that it has a place to spread to and the paper can absorb it properly. And then I'm going in and adding it, which was very different from what I just said. So on the left, I was doing that, but underneath the boat, I just went straight in. And I'm actually pulling color from under the boat right now, the pink, to add to it. Bringing the yellow down so it turns into orange. Still pulling from that color because there's so much sitting there because it is pulled. Ah, the sweet, sweet sounds of lawn mowing going on in my neighborhood. I hope you can't hear it, but if you can't, now you can imagine it. Ah, blue. Bringing the blue sky in. There's something that is like particularly nice about letting the watercolor do the work and not overworking it, but I am notoriously overworking it. Gave myself a thumbs up.
To be in my head when I made this video. Just letting it seep in and see what it can do, and then gently guiding it around going, hey, I want you to go in this direction. That is what I'm up to here. So my whole purpose here was to try and make this look like almost folded underground, like folds in the dirt. And I put down my first layer and didn't like the way it looked. It was too much. So I went and found a more greenish brown instead of a more warm brown. And I'm doing a whole lot of pushing and pulling here, and I'm overworking the paper, to be really honest with you. I can see where I've already pulled up and overworked it, and now I'm frustrated because this literally is a very tiny piece, and I feel like I'm losing the idea of what I wanted. But that's okay, because I decided to just let it dry, and I'm going to use that as my starting off point. I turn it over to dry the back, so all the water that seeped through would be dry, and I just keep going. But I start from a dry place instead of a wet place because I had completely overworked the paper. Just wanted to give you some insight to the mind scramble that happened there. Here I am completely ignoring the bottom. That's how upset it made me. I moved on. I decided to work on clouds and the flag and just let it be. I didn't want to mess with it anymore. And honestly, that is the best advice I can give anyone, is when one piece of your project is just upsetting you, just walk away from it and turn the paper around. You'll see me constantly spinning the paper or turning it or going to a different area and working on it, because it's like a quilt, and even though it's all held together on that paper, you can just keep moving around and it's not going to affect your end game of being done. You can come back to the piece that ticked you off, or you overworked, or you're contemplating ripping up. But just before you rip it up, I advise you to just don't work on that part for a while and see what you can do with it when you come back to it. So now it's had a lot of time to dry. And I'm pretty sure I'm using Piedmont. I'm saying it incorrectly. I always say it wrong. I've made the choice that I'm going to go in and kind of outline where I want the folds to be. And now, instead of it being a white background, I'm just enforcing the dirty of what I've laid down and let dry. And it works for me. And I'm liking it. So walking away helps. Pro tip. You're welcome. after you've put down a few layers of paint, or what feels like 1,000 layers here, it's good to come back in with a really thin lead pencil and just kind of reiterate your lines just a bit. Varying your pressure is super important, just to give back some of the detail that you lost along the way. But you can add back technically with watercolor. It's just going to take you a heck of a lot more time. And then once you go over with the pencil, once you paint over it again, it's there for life. You ain't getting rid of it. So that's important to remember as well. Not going over every line, but just trying to find places that need to come forward or recede back. In the green areas, it's just everything's kind of just green. I need to go back in and separate out the leaves and the circles from the background, because they're almost like in the same value house. They're living in the same green land together. Got to give it some detail. I want to talk to you about what getting old looks like, because this is it right here, folks. This is endgame. This is a really tiny picture, and I probably think that 15 years ago I could have done this without a magnifying glass, but I want to give a big thumbs up to Aunt Patty in the sky and tell her that I do use your magnifying glass, my love, a lot, because I can't see things. And I'm super thankful for the light on the other side. But man, this was tiny, and adding that nose was just not working for me. I was feeling very old. So magnifying glasses for the win. Now we're coming back in and we're going to add back some white with a Posca pen, which they are incredible to use. I have a opaque paint I like to use as well. It's a Copic paint, but this one I'm just using because it has such a fine tip and this is so tiny. I knew it would be easier than using a paintbrush with the paint to add back the white. After I'm done with the Posca pen, adding a white details back in and dots and all those little elements, I think I come back in with a pencil a little bit and I start to paint a little bit on top of it just to add more depth, because there's just layer after layer after layer on this piece. And it's so tiny. Oh, there we go. Back out again. Back out with the magnifying glass. Nothing makes you feel like you're deep into your 40s than having to pull out a magnifying glass, see a paper right in front of you. Hashtag old. That's all it is right there, friends. I love that I'm making myself crack up over my oldness. Yep, come back in with the paint. Just add one more layer just to pop it off more, because it was receding too far back and it was all getting mixed together. It's hard to see it as much here. This is way more vibrant in person. I have tried everything to show that, but it is beautiful in person. Doing a little lifting, adding back, turning the paper, just going down the road to finishing it up. And there you have it. The SS rescue is complete and done. Thank you for coming along on my journey of my process. It was fun painting with you.